So you're at your interview. You have a steaming hot cup of coffee. Just imagine there's coffee in the cup, okay? And now it's time for your interview. You have exactly 5 minutes to get rid of this cup of coffee. You look around, no trash can. Where are you going to put this coffee? But there's a plant. Wait, is it a bad idea to pour this coffee on this plant? And what other liquids can you pour on plants? That's the question we're going to answer in my science experiment. So the gist of my experiment is this. Step 1. Obtain 5 of the same plants with similar heights. Step 2. Give each plant a different liquid. For this experiment, each plant got 1/3 cup of liquid per week. Step 3. Measure the growth of each plant and see which one does best. The next thing I did was pick my liquids. I tried to choose liquids that would all somehow manage to end up in a plant. Starting with both apple juice and coffee. Both of these are drinks that someone might pour into a plant trying to water it. Sounds familiar, right? And the drink typically given to plants, water for the control. And I kind of lost what I was doing here with vinegar, but that's the next one that I chose. And finally, window cleaner, which could end up on a plant if you're cleaning a window near it. So those were the 5 liquids that I chose. I made the hypothesis that water would do the best since that's what plants typically get, and vinegar would do the worst because it's so acidic. Now the next step for me was to get 5 Better Boy tomato plants. Why they're called Better Boy, I don't know, but this is a picture of them after the first day. Vinegar is looking pretty bad, but all of them have started to lean towards the sun, as you can see in this video here. These next few shots were taken over the next couple of days. For the most part, they look pretty good. The 3 on the right are doing the best. But if you look closely, you can see how the one on the back left corner, which is window cleaner, is already looking pretty droopy. And vinegar on the front left has already collapsed completely. However, coffee, water, and apple juice are flourishing. They're growing like normal, and they seem to be doing pretty good. Fast forward a few days to the last day of tracking the plant's growth, which is when these shots were taken. You can see in the front left, vinegar is still doing very bad. Window cleaner has collapsed on its side, and the other 3 are still doing great. Apple juice and coffee look almost identical to the control, but you can notice a slight bit of discoloration on the leaves of the coffee. Since coffee is the darkest of the 5 liquids, it's reasonable to conclude that the coffee is the reason why these leaves look darker than the others. All the data from this experiment was logged onto this bar graph, where you can see how vinegar and window cleaner actually go down while the others go up. This happened because they actually fell over in the cups that they were in. Now we're going to look at the ingredients for each liquid and figure out why they helped or hurt the plant. Let's start out with apple juice. Now, surprisingly, this plant actually did the best. This apple juice contains apple juice concentrate, which is pretty acidic because it's made from apples, which are acidic. If this was a lot of different kinds of plants, it probably wouldn't have survived, but since tomatoes are acid-loving, this plant thrived in its acidic environment. Next up, the example that was given at the beginning of this video, coffee. Coffee is actually plentiful in nitrogen, which is really good for plants. It builds up their stem and allows lots of green leaves. So this plant had a high chance of survival, and it definitely pulled through. Next up, we have water. I used 1 brand of bottled water so we could be sure we knew exactly what was going on our plant. This water contains calcium chloride, sodium bicarbonate, and magnesium sulfate, all of which are in such minuscule amounts they wouldn't have hurt it, but are actually basically just salt, baking soda, and a naturally occurring element that won't help or hurt the plant. So basically, this plant did exactly as we expected. Now this is where things start to get tragic. Well, not quite that tragic, but still pretty sad when you consider what the vinegar actually did to this thing. The high acidity of the vinegar dissolved the tissues in the plants and killed it. In fact, vinegar is so good at killing plants, some people even use it as an alternative weed killer. That's pretty brutal and pretty tragic for this little guy. Okay, seriously, back to science. So the window cleaner really did this plant in, but that's not really a surprise when you find out that it contained ammonium hydroxide. This caused the plant's roots to stop functioning properly. Once the plant is no longer intaking water, it becomes shriveled and wilted, resulting in a plant that pretty much looks like this. I also made a handy chart about my project. Here's a picture of me with it. And here's a video of the graph itself. So my hypothesis turned out to be incorrect. Apple juice's acidity boosted it above water, and window cleaner was even worse than vinegar. So now we did finally answer the question, can you pour your coffee on this plant? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. Thank you for watching this video on my science experiment.